What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the tutorial video for June 2018. I hope you're all doing very well. Anyways, in today's video, I'm going to be kind of expanding upon the push notification series that I started in my previous tutorial. So in the last tutorial, I went over setting up your whole Firebase project and your Unity application so you can send notifications from the Firebase console to your device that's running your Unity game. And so in this tutorial video, I'm going to be expanding on that just a little bit more and showing you how you can send messages using scripting and make the messages a little bit more configurable and show off some of the kind of cool things that you can do with it. So the reason I'm making this tutorial video is because I'm currently working on a Unity game that uses asynchronous multiplayer design, which is heavily reliant on push notifications because you really want to notify your player when it's their move as soon as possible. And the game is essentially a turn-based strategy game where you draft a team of players across a wide variety of sports and you battle it out against another team of athletes across a wide variety of sports. And if you find that interesting at all, definitely go take a look in the description below. And if you're watching this during the summer of 2018, I'm currently running an alpha test of my game, and there is a contest going on where if you win the most games at the end of the alpha test, you will win a free video game of your choice. So again, just go check the description below for more information on that. But enough about that, let's talk a little bit more about this tutorial. And I should sort of preface this by saying that I'm going to be kind of covering a wide variety of topics here, and I'm kind of going to be bouncing around just a little bit, so I hope it doesn't get too confusing. But I really just kind of want to cover a wide variety of topics because I know many of you following along are going to need some things and not need other things. So hopefully I do a good job of explaining of what each thing does so you can kind of get a good understanding of what you need and what sort of things you might not need. So the topics covered in today's video are going to be how you can send messages from a web server through scripting as opposed to through the Firebase console like we did in the last video. We're also going to be talking about sending messages to individual devices or groups of devices called topics. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about sending messages to a device when the app is open in the foreground or closed in the background, because there are different behaviors that happen between the two. And it also should be noted that we're going to be using the legacy HTTP server calls. This is not the brand new HTTP v1 stuff, and the legacy HTTP, it works fine, but it's just not as secure because you have a static server key as opposed to with the new HTTP v1 that has like a server key that changes every 5 seconds, and then you use some scripting to access that key, and it gets a lot more complicated, and it's not something that's fully implementable through PHP, which is the scripting language of choice for myself and the one that I'm going to be using in this video today. But for today, we're just going to be using the legacy HTTP server calls, which work just fine. But just note they're not as secure, but they're still pretty secure. So anyways, just a couple prerequisites that you're going to need to have set up before we go into this video. Of course, you're going to need a Unity project, and I'm going to be providing the Unity project that I'm using with all the scripting and everything down in the description below, so if you want to follow along, feel free to download that. Also, you're going to need your Firebase project set up and configured. If you don't already have that, definitely go watch my previous tutorial video where I go over all that in full detail. You're also going to need some sort of a web server set up. And so this can be either a local web server on your computer like Apache or something like that, or it could also be a real server that's out on the internet somewhere. For the purposes of this video, I'm just going to be using the local Apache server on my computer. If you don't know how to set something like that, I'm going to provide you some references down in the description below. It's really not too difficult to set that up. Also, you're going to need to have PHP installed on your web server because we are going to be using PHP scripting to do these HTTP server calls. Again, something not too difficult to set up, and I'll leave you some references in the description below if you need help setting that up. The one thing we need to make sure to do in the php.ini file, we need to enable curl And the way we do that is just remove the semicolon, which uncomments this line that is extension equals php underscore curl.dll. Again, that's in the php.ini file, and that will enable us to use curl in PHP. So anyways, I hope that all sets the stage for this tutorial video. If you do find this video helpful at all, please leave it a like. And of course, if you have any questions for me, drop them down in the comments section below. I'm definitely happy to help with any questions that you may have. But anyways, let's jump right on into the tutorial. Okay, so we're going to start off right here in Unity, and I'm just going to kind of show you how I have my project set up. This project will be provided to you in the description below if you do wish to follow along. But basically, I just kind of have a simple little scene set up here for portrait mode, just to make things nice and clean for mobile devices. So just kind of going down the list here, basically we just have a canvas with a couple of UI elements, as you'll see. So we have this device token text, which is up here. Basically, we're just going to use this for debugging your device token. So when your device actually receives a token from Firebase, it will be displayed here, and it's going to be pretty long, so it might take up like a third to half of your screen. The next thing that we have is a data text object, and this is just at the bottom here, and this is to help debug some of the data text that we will be receiving from Firebase Cloud Messaging. And then the last thing, we just have this button here. It's a send with delay button, and we're going to be using this a little bit later on in the tutorial. What it's going to do is when we push it, it's going to kick off a script on our web server, which will send a delayed notification to us. So if you are testing and you only have one device, you can send a notification to your own device, close out of the application, and actually receive the application, because unfortunately you won't be able to actually receive notifications when you have the app open in the foreground. And so I covered these things in the last tutorial, but I just want to make sure that you all have the proper things set up. So make sure that you go to Assets, Import Package, Custom Package, and just import the Firebase Messaging.Unity package. Of course, I will have a link to the Firebase Unity SDK down in the description for you to download. And then the other thing that you want to make sure that you have set up, just go to Edit, Project Settings, and Player. And then on iPhone, Android, or both, depending on whatever you're using, just make sure you set the package name here to something unique. And on iOS, it's going to be called the bundle identifier, but just keep it the same as the Android one. It'll make it a lot easier. And then the last thing that I have set up in my scene is just an empty Firebase controller game object, and then I attach the C# script to it, which is the Firebase notification controller C# script, and we'll be configuring that in just a little bit. But before we do that, I'd like to actually jump into some PHP scripting, where we'll set up a PHP script to sit on our web server that can make the appropriate notification calls to Firebase so that we can actually receive them on our devices. So for the purposes of this demonstration, I have a total of 3 PHP files that I'll be using, and of course these will be included with the Unity project down in the description below. Basically, I have this send notification.php, which is kind of the main one, a send notification with delay, which is basically the same as this one with a little bit of extra functionality, and then this server key info.php. And all that's in here is this Google server key, and this is something that's unique to your Firebase project, and you will not want to share this with anyone, so I'm just keeping it in a separate script here. And if you don't know where to get that server key from, what you're going to do is just go to the Firebase console, go up to this gear here, hit project settings, go to the cloud messaging tab, and then you'll see this server key here. Just go ahead and hit the copy to clipboard link there, and then you can go back to the server key info PHP script and paste it in right where it tells you to. Alright, so here is the main PHP script that we're going to be working with. This is the send notification.php script. At the beginning, you're going to want to do the require once function and pass in that server key info.php script so you can access variables from there. right under there, we're going to set this local server key variable to the Google server key, which is the variable from the server key info.php script. We're also going to set up a URL variable, and it's going to go to https://fcm.googleapis.com/fcm/send. And so again, this is for the legacy HTTP calls. Basically, we're going to be using curl to send a message to this URL, which will be then processed by Firebase, and then if all goes well, will be sent out to whatever devices that we specify. And speaking of devices that we specify, we're going to set this recipient variable to /topics/all, and so this sets up who we're actually going to send the message to. In this case, we're going to be sending it to a topic, and with topics you can have basically whatever you want. Instead of all, you could have maybe a news topic or a deals of the day topic. But for now, we're just going to stick with the all topic, keeps it nice and simple. And also, it should be noted that instead of sending to a topic, we could send to an individual device if we wanted to. And the way we do that is just inside these quotes, we would paste in the device token, which again is a unique key that is unique to not only the specific device, but the specific Firebase Cloud Messaging project. And this is going to be that really long token that appears when we first fire up our Unity application. Now going down, here's actually where we compose our notification. So we're just going to set up an array. We're going to call it notification, and in it we're going to have a title component, and we can set this to whatever we want to. So right now I just have it say notification title, but for an example we could say something like 4th of July sale. So this will be the headline that you see in the notification, and then the body of the notification, we can just change this from notification body to say something like all skins half off until July 7th. Now these aren't the only components of the notification that we can change. We can change things like the icon, the sound that plays, or even a specific click action. But these are just kind of the most basic and most common. Some of the other ones get a little more complicated, so I may go into those later, but for now we're just going to stick with the title and body. Now scrolling down, you'll see that we actually have another structure similar to this notification one up above. This is the data payload. So with the data payload, basically it's going to be set up like a dictionary. So we're going to have a key and a value. So the key can be whatever we want. So for this key I have power level, and then the value also can be whatever we want. So we'll say, you know, something over 9,000. And then we'll have another key called data string, and then in that we're going to have just some basic, this is some string data. And then you'll see when we go to Unity, we're actually going to search for this particular key here, and then this value we're going to have printed out to the screen. But again, you can really do whatever you want with this value. So even though it's just a basic string, you could maybe send some particular information that may influence your game in one way or another, and then as long as Unity knows how to process that string, I think you can see how this would be really useful for something like that. And then this last part here, we're just going to basically combine all that above stuff into this fields array. And then if you're following along with the documentation, this is essentially going to be the Firebase message class. And there are some things that we can set up here. So there's a to component, and we'll just set that to the recipient. Again, this can be a topic string or a string of a device token if you want to send to an individual device only. There's a notification field which we're going to set to this notification array above, and then a data field which we'll set to this data array that we created. And then we have one last array that we need to create. We're just going to set up the headers properly. So we're going to set the authorization key to that server key variable. Again, that is the unique variable to your project. And then so it's basically a string, and in PHP you use this dot to add to the string instead of, say, a plus sign like you might see in C#. And then we're going to set the content type to application/JSON, just so it knows we're going to be sending all this information in the JSON format. And then this last part here is where all the actual magic happens. We're going to be using something called curl, so we can actually send this message to the Firebase Cloud Messaging server for it to be processed. So basically we're just going to create this ch variable, and then we'll do curl initialize function. And then so we're going to be using the curl set option function a bunch of times. As you'll see, we'll pass in this ch variable. The curl option URL, we're just going to pass in the URL, which again is the URL that we specified up above here. We'll set post to true. The HTTP headers is going to be our headers array. We're going to set the return transfer to be true, SSL verify peer to be false. For the post fields, we're going to use a JSON encode function on our fields array, which is the actual Firebase message. And so basically that changes all these kind of nested arrays that we have here into a JSON format so Google can properly process the message. And then here we actually do the curl operation and we send the results to this result variable. We're going to close curl, and then finally we're just going to echo the result to the screen. So not that long of a script. Hopefully it wasn't too complicated. I just kind of wanted to explain everything just so you know exactly what everything is, and you can use this as a reference to grab some of the components that you may need and skip some other components that you may not need. So then we're just going to make sure that we save this script to somewhere on our web server that we can access it easily later on. So the next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to pop over to our C# script that we have set up in Unity. And again, this is the Firebase notification controller script. So you'll see that we have just a couple public variables for the device token text and the data text, just so we can easily modify those. We also have a read-only string for our web server. If you're hosting this on your actual website, you can type the URL of your website in there. Or if you know that you're just going to be testing on your computer, you can type in localhost. But for now, because I want to be able to use this on my phone, we're going to type in the IP address, the local IP address of my computer. And that way, when I actually build this application and put it on my phone, I can make calls to the web server running off my computer from my phone, as long as my phone and my computer are on the same Wi-Fi network. Here we just have a private string for the my device token, so we can easily access that. Now in the start function, which is called when we open up our application, we're going to subscribe the appropriate functions to the specified events. So for the token received event, we're going to add the onTokenReceived function, and then for the message received event, we're going to add the message received function. So now let's take a closer look at the actual onTokenReceived and onMessageReceived functions. So these functions just take in an object called sender, and then a Firebase messaging token received event arg that we'll call token. We'll set that myDeviceToken variable to token.token. We can just go ahead and print that to the screen, and also set the device token text to that myDeviceToken string. So doing this will actually show our device token on the screen. If you're not seeing a device token when you open your device, then you probably set something up wrong in your Firebase project, and you should go back and watch my first tutorial video. Note that if you are testing on a computer, you will not receive a device token because it has to be an Android or an iOS device to actually receive a device token. And the last thing that we're going to do when we receive a device token is subscribe this device to the topics/all topic. And so again, you can put whatever you want here. So again, this can be news or deals of the day, whatever you want, but for now we'll just stick with all. And similarly, if you'd like to have a settings in case these notifications start getting a little bit annoying for your users, there of course is a unsubscribe function, and here you can just type in /topics/all, and then that will unsubscribe the device from that particular topic. But we don't want to unsubscribe right after we subscribe, so we'll just take that line right out. And then real quickly, I'd like to show you how we can send to a particular topic. Again, if we just go to this Grow Cloud Messaging, we can create a new message, and here we'll select topic, and we can start typing in a topic. So when we type in A, we see that there actually is a topic called all. And I believe this is created when you subscribe to when a device is subscribed to a unique topic. These new topics will start popping up in here, so we can just click all so we know that it will be sent to the all group. So this onTokenReceived function is called when our device receives a device token from Firebase. Now next is the onMessageReceived function, and this will only be called when the device is open in the foreground. So I just want to make that clear. Now when the device is open in the foreground, we actually will not receive a notification like we would if the application is closed. And that's kind of by design to not clutter up the user's system tray with a bunch of notifications when they're already in the app. But sometimes we do want to have things happen when we actually receive a message, and so that's where we can use this onMessageReceived function. So for example, we can set, say, the device token text to the notifications body. And again, this is the body that we have set up in our PHP script, so this all skins half off until July 7th. It'll be that body component of the notification. If we want, we could also set this to the title of the notification. But for now, we'll just leave it as the body. So you might be able to see how this kind of thing would be useful. If you're not actually receiving a traditional notification, you could make your own notification of sorts that contains the same information that it would have anyways, but it can be stylized inside your app, which might be kind of cool. Also, there's different plugins online that you can use to send local notifications. So if you still want a traditional notification to pop up, you could pass some of this information that you receive from Firebase to that plugin, so a local notification will be displayed. And then down here, I'm going to show off how we can access the data payload. So we'll first just need to set up a string, so I'll just call it data text string, and just have it set to no data text. In case it doesn't find anything, this will be printed out to the screen. But because data, I don't know how well you be able to see that, but is of type iDictionary, and so that's a built-in C# structure. And there's a method called try_get_value, where you type in whatever specified key, and if there is a value for that specified key, it will be outputted to our data text string. So again, these keys are just whatever we want and that we set up in our PHP script. So here's the data string one that we're accessing. Also, we could access this power level variable, key, but I'm just showing off with the data string for now. And then of course we'll set that data text.text to the data text string, so you can kind of see how you can use this value that you received from your Firebase message. And so that's a pretty good start there. So we can pop back over to Unity and actually create a build here. So we'll just go to the build settings. I'm working on Android, but this should work just fine on iOS, and we will create a build of that. Okay, now once we have the application installed on our device, we can go ahead and launch that, and you'll see we'll be brought into the screen which shows our device token up at the top here in this plain text. And again, this means that we've done everything correctly so far and we are ready to receive notifications. This is basically also confirmation that we're subscribed to the all topic. So now I'm just going to show you what happens when we have the app in the background. So we just hit the home button here, put the app in the background, and then we go over to our web server. Again, I'm just using the local host on my computer, so I'll just go to localhost, and I have this push notifications tutorial folder. In it I have stored the send notification PHP script. So clicking on this will run the script, and right when I do that, you'll hear that I get the notification on my phone, and we have this message ID that basically confirms the message was sent. If there are any errors at all, they will show up right here. So now going over to the phone, you can see that if we scroll down here, we get the notification that says 4th of July sale, all skins half off until July 7th, which is the custom stuff that we set up in the PHP script. If we click on that, it'll bring us right into the application here. Now I'm going to demonstrate what happens when we run the PHP script with the app in the foreground. So I'll just refresh the page on my computer here. So you'll see that a couple of things have changed on the screen. Unfortunately, we do not get the notification sound this time around when the app is in the foreground, but you'll see that I've set this top text variable to the notifications body, which says all skins half off until July 7th. And then down at the bottom, this just shows this is some string data, which is that value that we set for the data string key. Next thing I'm going to show off is this other PHP script that I have set up, and this is the send notification with delay PHP script. As you can see, it's pretty much basically the same. You'll see there are a few differences though. This recipient variable, we have this post variable here and recipient, and this is actually what we're going to be receiving from Unity. So we can use Unity to specify who we want to send messages to. And then scrolling down further, you'll see the only other real difference is that I have this sleep 10, which basically puts a 10-second delay into the script, which gives us plenty of time to exit out of the application so we can send push notifications to ourselves to test it out. So again, just save that to your web server for easy access later. So we'll pop back over into Unity, or this C# script rather. So we have this public function for the on button send delayed message. So that basically means that when we click the button, it's going to start this coroutine called send delayed message. And now to do web calls like this, we have to use an IEnumerator, which, as you may know, is a coroutine. It's very similar to a function, except it can kind of stop execution and resume execution later on. So we're going to use a www form variable. We'll just call this web form and call the constructor here. And with this web form, we can add pretty much as many fields to it as we want. So in this example, we're going to add this recipient field. And this is the same thing that in our PHP script that at the top we're looking for. So we do this post recipient. So if we had some other fields that we would add to that web form, we could search for them in the same way, just replacing this recipient with whatever we put in right here. And so this is similar to like the key and value situation. So you can think of this recipient as the key and this topic/all as the string variable. So again, instead of using this topics.all, if we wanted, we could say comment this out and then uncomment this, and then we'll add this recipient field using the my device token. So this is how we can send notifications to just this device and this device only that we're testing on. So if you want to use Unity to send from your computer to a device, you can use this topics/all, and then we'll comment out this device token one. But essentially, all you're doing is setting where you want to send the notifications to. Now we'll use the www class, make a new one called server call. We'll use the www constructor. For the URL, we're going to use that web server address that we put up there earlier. Again, this can be an IP address or a URL, and then we'll direct it to the push notifications tutorial folder and the send notification with delay PHP script, and we'll also pass in that web form. And we'll do a yield return server call. So this actually calls this function, passes the web form into it. Once that completes, the execution will resume here, and then down here, if there's any errors, it will print them out to the screen. If not, then we'll get a success message and any messages that may have come back from the server there. So we'll just save that, go back over to Unity. One thing that we need to make sure to do if you are using your own project, just go to this button and set the on click to the Firebase notification controller, on button send delayed message. Alright, and then we'll go back over to our device, launch the application. See, once we get in, again, we'll be assigned the same device token as before because it's obviously the same device. And then we can hit this send with delay button. Go ahead and close out of the application, or just put it into the background. We'll wait the 10 seconds, and then the notification will come through. This is just set to notification title, notification body, because that's what I have it set to, that delayed PHP script. So of course we can also open this up, and this delayed message will also be received when the app is in the foreground, but again, we will not receive the notification, we'll just receive the data from it. Just like that. So anyways, that's just about going to wrap up this tutorial video. I hope that gave you a good overall view of some of the more in-depth configurations that you can do for Firebase Cloud Messaging. One last thing that I wanted to mention, because I know some of you were asking about it, is sending messages from one device to another device. So in that sort of case, you're probably going to have to set up some sort of database or something like that, because you need to keep track of those device tokens. And you could just set up some simple MySQL database and put it on your web server, and that database would basically have like a username and the device token attached to that. And then from Unity, you could send that username up to your web server, where your PHP script will take that username and then use that to track down the device token from your database. And then once it has that device token, it can send the message off to that device. I do have a sort of similar setup working in my game right now, so if you need any help with that, definitely let me know in the comments below. But other than that, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, make sure you give it a like, and if you have any questions or comments, concerns, feel free to drop them down in the comments section below. Also, let me know if there's any other topics that you'd like me to cover in future videos. But that's just going to wrap it up for this one. I hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. I really appreciate you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.